Once upon a time, our storytellers gather, bringing with them only a set of dice, a scroll of magical story elements, and a passion to create. Rolling for genre, setting and time, and character archetype, our storytellers Ethan, Ari, and Nathan weave a tale right before your very eyes. Stay a while and listen as we share our creativity in progress.
As always, aka Creativity in Progress. I am your host, Ethan Murphy, and happy May the 4th be with you, all you Star Wars fans and nerds. All of us here are Star Wars fans and nerds. We are all familiar with it. We want to share the holiday with you by, of course, telling our own story. And that's what Creativity in Progress is, the writer's room where we come up with a story that you get to take part in and hopefully get to feel like you're inside the writer's room yourself. But as always, I am joined by my lovely guest, Nathan Beatty Jr. III.
I'm a guest now.
I'm sorry. Wow, my lovely co-host. You're a guest in my dreams, but you're co-host on this show. Lovely co-host.
Hello. How are you?
Hello. How you doing, sir? And our even lovelier co-host and guest, Ari Horner. How you doing, Ari? Good. All right. As I put both my feet in my mouth successfully, just a little recap, just to let you guys know, this show, like I said before, the purpose of this show, what we do on this show, basically, is we do, the three of us are like your parents, and we're tucking you in at bed for the night, and we're coming up with a really cool bedtime story. The thing is, we don't know it until we all get together. So we roll the genre of the story, roll for the archetypes of the story, roll for the setting of the story, and then we just make it up on the fly. It's a really fun time, and we hope you guys enjoy it. Now, this is part 2 of our story, and so last week we got into a story. The things that we rolled for were the genre was superhero, the setting was desert, time period was the future, archetype number 1 was Redeemer, archetype number 2 was Master, and archetype number 3 was Gunslinger. Right? And what I did over my copious amounts of spare time is to put all the notes and data that we had about the story and wrote up a little narrative. And as a recap, I'm actually going to go ahead and read that little narrative for you guys now, and hopefully it won't bore you to tears. If it does, I apologize for everything.
Way to really sell your work there, Ethan.
Yeah. Trust me, I'm in Hollywood. I am used to abject rejection in every possible term. All right.
Well, just think, nobody can reject you on the podcast, so you're good.
That's true, except for you two. But we're all together.
No,
All right.
if we were rejecting you, you'd know it.
Thank you.
Please.
Okay, here it is. And little heads up. I just called the story "Burning Wet." I know there wasn't an officially approved title, but I couldn't think of anything else. So it's just right now, I'm just calling it "Burning Wet."
Okay.
So it's called "Burning Wet" Part 1, like Master, like Hero. In the near future, there remains but 2 kinds of people, the dying and the dead. Global warming has turned the most fertile of lands into untenable deserts. In a desperate attempt to combat the worldwide drought, the company Hydropower develops an artificial water compound known as H2FO. The compound slowly but surely starts to replenish the dehydrated world. Unfortunately, these new baptismal waters come at a cost. When drinking H2FO, people start to suffer from mutations. Some small, some big, all unwanted. After numerous iterations have been subjected to these mutations, the landscape of the world looks completely different. Virtually everyone that is still alive has an unnatural ability of some sort. But despite all these changes, mankind has endured. They remain uncertain of the cause, or so it seems. Hydropower is well aware of the effects their compound is having on the masses, but it sees it as a necessary evil. In their eyes, quote, a world full of beings in altered states is better than a world full of no beings at all. One night, a low-level employee in charge of distributing H2FO named Aqua stumbles upon some bizarre findings at the company. Before she has a chance to make sense of what she's looking at, the building is put on lockdown in an attempt to apprehend her. Trish, a scientist working late in her lab at the company, overhears APB as it goes over the loudspeakers. She quickly starts changing into a mysterious-looking outfit. As Trish shoots up on one side of the lab, we see the CEO on the other side of the lab making a company call to an assassin outside the complex. An assassin known only as the Gunslinger. Meanwhile, Aqua is desperately trying to escape the large complex. As hordes of security guards swarm after her, she reluctantly jumps into the high-pressure filtration system. Aqua loses her pursuers but nearly drowns in the volatile water as it rushes her through the turbulent corridors. Out of life or death reflexes, Aqua uses her mutant ability to manipulate the water around her and creates a bubble to keep her safe in the tubes. After what seems like an eternity, the tubes finally lead Aqua out of the large complex. She's weak, tired, and most of all, terrified. Despite her narrow escape, Aqua knows she's far from safe. With what little strength she has, Aqua stumbles off into the night seeking some form of safety. Aqua miraculously manages to make her way back home. As she trembles and struggles to settle her nerves, she hears a knock at her door. She slowly approaches the door and cautiously looks through the peephole, just in time to see a massive explosion coming directly at her. The explosion bursts through the door and sends Aqua soaring down the hall across her home. She's quickly rendered unconscious as she slams into the wall. The gunslinger roars through the burning door like a hyena as he laughs with mad depravity. He carefully stands over his unconscious prey, smiles a tooth-filled grin, and says his catchphrase line of "Pop goes the weasel." As his hands start lighting up, full of bullets, out of nowhere, someone ninja kicks the gunslinger from behind and sends him flying several feet away from Aqua. From Aqua. As the gunslinger clumsily stands to his feet, he sees the superhero Madam X standing between him and his target. The gunslinger quickly fires several shots wildly at Madam X. She skillfully dodges the wild barrage like an acrobat. Unfortunately, all the gunfire and explosions cause the floor to fall right out from underneath them, sending the pair into the basement. Madam X gets trapped under some burning debris and seems to be at the mercy of the gunslinger. Suddenly, the plumbing in the basement all bursts and douses the gunslinger out like a wet match. Before he can dry off and reignite, Madam X kicks the debris off herself and sends it crashing into the gunslinger. Madam X quickly picks up Aqua, and the two barely escape the burning home before it completely collapses and seemingly leaves the gunslinger buried in the rubble. He then decides to take the wounded girl back to her hideout. When Aqua awakes the next day, Madam X reveals herself to be the scientist that Trish knows from the hydropower. He fills her in on all the harm the company is doing. Aqua asks her why she bothered to help her, and Trish tells her she believes Aqua's abilities might just be the key to fixing water. And that is more or less Act 1 of our story and pretty much everything we covered in the first week.
That Act 1 was I'll be honest, I don't remember us talking about like 90% of that.
So I will be honest. Some of the details I filled in. We obviously was much more of an outline. But everything that we covered was I just kind of filled in some gaps.
Oh, okay. I was like, wait, there was dramatic standing and kicking from behind, and what?
The fight scene was very bare bones. But as a comic book writer, I couldn't leave a superhero story with no details about the actual fight scene.
Yeah, I think last week we just had fight scene.
I think we literally said there was fighting, and then it stopped.
Yeah. Okay.
So now that we've all caught up on all the gaps I filled in, basically, and hopefully everyone's memory is back to where it was. This is more or less the beginning of Act 2, and we're kind of starting off with them at the real client, like the X cave, essentially, where Madam X's home.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe there was a couple of things we talked about last time that we didn't really delve into as much. One of the things we brought up was the idea that part of the flight in this world is that water is obviously at a all time is a very hot commodity. So there really isn't that much water out there. And we had talked before about looking for water. I don't think that's necessarily the biggest case here. I think the bigger objective seems to be that um, Madam X is just trying to fix the water as best she can to keep people from getting sick from it or getting mutated by it. Essentially, that's the main. That's objective A, and then objective B seems to be Madam X training Aqua to learn how to use her powers the fullest for multiple reasons, so she can become a hero, and so she can, of course, help with the water problems.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, um, so I guess would we want to do Act 2 to be like, okay, like, I'm gonna teach you how to be a superhero now, kind of thing.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. If or it could be one of those things. There's one of two ways to go. Either that it's either if we get into the whole refusal to call, it could be that Madam X wants to train Aqua to be a superhero using her powers and everything else, and Aqua doesn't want that, or Aqua saw Madam X in action and kind of wants to do the same things that she did. She wants to become a hero, and Madam X isn't quite sure she wants to train her, so that they the hero, or they could both want the same.
Kind of like the idea of um, that she doesn't want to be a superhero. She just wants to help, because that would be a little different from what we've done before.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is a similar like mentor mentee kind of dynamic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I kind of want to put a new kind of spin on it.
Okay. And actually, there's not even a reason. We don't even have to make Aqua a superhero. I mean, Madam X already is a superhero. We could have it that this is kind of it's her sidekick in a different kind of way. She's kind of the brains as far as not the brains, but she's able to do her powers is meant to simply help a problem that the superhero has in a more kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
And the training montage would be involving as far as just Aqua getting better at using her ability. The way it seems now, the way we talked about it last time is that Aqua kind of doesn't really use them, doesn't really know how to use them to the fullest extent. Not that she's completely ignorant that she has them, but she's not really using them that much, unless it's kind of fight or flight reflexes,
Right.
basically.
Yeah.
So it could be that when they're in the X cave, that Madam X does try to help her learn how to use them. I think we talked before about how because she's a scientist, Madam X knows more about these mutations in these people than the average person does, and she's very intelligent. But
Right. Yeah, I'm into like the teaching aspect. But I like the idea of Aqua just kind of being like, I only want to learn this stuff to do what I have to do and not be like um, a hero necessarily.
right,
I just like that. I'm not sure how to execute that necessarily. I just like the idea of the reluctance.
right, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that it because that's such a, in my opinion, such a worn out trope of the young new person finally like, oh cool, you can do powers, teach me how to do that, wow. And and then also the on the flip side, when the person who's refusing typically is the old grizzled seen it all, just wants to put it all behind them, they're the ones that refuse. I think it would be interesting to flip that on its head and have it be the young person being like, yeah, nah, I'm good. You
Yeah.
know?
Right.
And maybe it could be that I forget what we had last time. How does Aqua feel about Madam X?
So Aqua, the thing is, Aqua was meant to be kind of a redeemer. So Aqua was kind of like an activist, and she was trying to help people. She prided herself on delivering water to people and helping humanity, so to speak, in a lower regard.
Right.
And I guess Madam X, for the most part, is seen kind of like Batman. So she's more or less seen as a vigilante. And I just imagining if in our real world, if there was someone that seemed like a really good humanitarian, like Aqua, and there was a vigilante running around, I'd imagine that kind of vigilante, she wouldn't necessarily like her that much. You'd have mixed feelings about her.
If she's a redeemer, she probably I'm sorry, my memory is completely failing me, but I feel like she starts out the story working for this corporation, right?
Yeah.
So she kind of buys into their stuff
Absolutely.
at first. So she probably doesn't like Madam X that much.
Right.
That would be an interesting dynamic to explore.
And also the idea too, she might not even trust her, even though it's a weird thing because Madam X did save her life, and in
Yeah,
return, Aqua saved hers, but she still doesn't really trust her. So even though
yeah,
she knows there's some hinky stuff going on at the hydropower, at the corporation that makes this artificial water, she doesn't really know what it is. And so as Madam X is saying, oh, by the way, this corporation is making this kind of water that's basically poisoning people and turning them into mutants, he of course is going to be resistant to that too. Like that's
yeah,
not true. I don't believe you. My family and I have been doing this stuff for years and generations, and everyone uses it. How could it be harmful?
yeah.
Which is also a refusal to call it a different way still.
Mhm.
And like you guys said, that is kind of a age-old trope where the young person is so anxious to become a hero. It makes a lot more sense in reality. That person like, I'm scared shitless. I just was
Yeah.
attacked by a madman. The last thing I'm gonna do is
That could get us all killed. And like I get that there's a problem happening, but I don't want to make it more of a problem than it
Yeah.
has to be.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think that'll probably be it has to be the first conversation that they have in the X lab, or sorry, X cave, whatever it is pretty much Madam X trying to convince Aqua that the company that they work for is well aware of the harm they're doing, and trying to convince Aqua that she needs to help. That Aqua can help them basically fix the water and help people. And Aqua is reluctant to do that because she doesn't necessarily believe Madam X. She doesn't necessarily see the company as being evil. She thinks that she just stumbled upon something much more benign than it seems. She doesn't know what she saw exactly, but it seems like something much smaller than that. And then also, like we said, Aqua is just a regular person. A regular person would want to fight supervillains or put their life on the line all the time. That's not who they are.
Exactly. Yeah, she's probably pretty wary about putting her life on the line, but I mean, part of her journey will be realizing that she's like the only person who can do something about it.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And then another thing, I guess, too, is that Madam X is because she's a scientist. She probably has some findings, or it was able to, while Aqua gets back to their house and she's knocked unconscious, what have you. Madam X in her huge X lab is able to see that what Aqua's abilities are. That she's able to manipulate water, and she realizes that Aqua has the ability to really, on a subatomic level, is able to manipulate water in a way that could kind of pasteurize or really do treat the water enough to make it much more potable than it already is, essentially. And so, and Aqua's like, I can't do that kind of stuff. I barely use my abilities. I just use it whenever I have to, more or less. So it's a two-pronged situation. Madam X is trying to convince Aqua about the reality of the company, and also trying to convince her that she has the ability to do more than she believes she can.
Right.
I also think it's interesting because we are playing pretty close to the with great power comes great responsibility trope of Spider-Man. I think it would be interesting because in the Spider-Man trope, it's not that he was necessarily called to be a hero. He was just called to, like it dawned on him after a bad thing happened that he should probably use these powers for good. Where here, the character is being directly like, you need to use this for good. And I think, and we're talking about like being scared and all of that. I like that going that direction with it, because like with the Peter Parker, it was, yeah, no, that's your problem, buddy. And then, his uncle dies. Where here, it's more like, yeah, no, I don't want to die. And also, I'm a nerd. I'm going to go over here and nerd things, and that's how I'll help the world. And
Right.
I like that going in that direction.
I do too. That seems, to be honest, that seems a lot more logical.
Yeah.
A lot more logical. So I guess the next thing would be, there's one of two ways for us to go, because this is more or less beginning of Act 2, so to speak. I guess we would have it that maybe after Aqua and Madam X have their massive confrontation of words in the X cave, Aqua could possibly just leave. Aqua could say, I'm out of here. I don't want to do this, have anything to do with this. I'm done. I'm gone. And just leave, basically. And if she does that, we'd have to think of another way to get them back together, or we had to find a way for Aqua to realize that she can be, or that she is needed to do something. And And there's a couple ways as far as we have the Aqua sees like kids playing with this water or drinking it or something like that, or she sees families that she sees families that are mutants that are in much worse condition than she is, um, and eventually it starts to gnaw at her brain that there is something wrong going on, and the possibility that the water is a cause does affect her, or
Mhm.
it could be more dramatic. It could be that she gets um, attacked again, and she was just attacked already, but
Mhm.
something that causes her to want to do more.
Mhm. Um, I like the idea of like I like the idea of having it be, you know, where she sees like she is shown the negative, her choices causing negative, that she could be helping and she's not.
Hmm.
But I don't necessarily want it to be like the montage of her walking down the street and seeing, people while, like soft piano music plays in the background. Um, I think, I think that's a little too on the nose cliche. But I could, I do kind of like that idea. So maybe it's I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how to do it except for the the walk down the street
Well,
and soft piano music.
Here, what if, okay, so what if we put a little bit more gray into it and we have Madam X just be like, I'm sorry, but no, you are the one, you are the only one who can do this, so you're going to do it whether you like it or not. And she kidnaps
Mm,
Aqua, um,
sure.
and shows her maybe what will happen if she doesn't help or what
hmm
has already happened.
Hmm.
Well, and I know I mentioned it last week, but this that actually touches on V for Vendetta again because while V never that story is so like I don't want to say that they never coerced the girl, I can't remember her name,
Oh, he
in
totally did.
Yeah, it's like Vivi or something like that. Yeah, Evie. Her name's Evie.
Evie, that's it. He never coerced. I don't want to say he didn't coerce her because he kind of did by manipulating the entire
He
situation.
manipulates. Yeah, he
Yeah, he
manipulates her.
fully, that was like, that was some shit that he did that was bad, but for a good purpose, like a
Yeah.
quote unquote good purpose.
Right,
Well, but I
right.
and I'm not even necessarily talking like yeah, oh yeah, like there's the whole like putting her in jail and making her think she's in,
That's the worst part.
yeah,
The
that's the
shaving her
worst
head.
part.
Yeah,
But
that's the
I'm
worst
even
part.
talking about like when he just like lets her go and just is like, yeah, go live in the world for a little bit and like they didn't even really like outside of some maybe supernatural thing going on in like a superpower that maybe V had that like I think V just knew I'm going to send her out there and I don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to completely make her come back to me because it's hell out there. And
Hmm.
Yes.
and I think this is kind of like a similar thing, but obviously done in a different way. But that's immediately what I thought of. And then of course there's also the jail thing, which is that's just like, whoa, dude, really? Wow.
Right.
Whole other
The
level.
extremist. Yeah. No. Yeah. Yes, that's a good example.
I kind of, I mean, I
Sorry. Go
don't
ahead.
want to go full V for Vendetta, but I mean, we
Yeah.
can't crib, we can't crib too much, but I do like it.
Mhm.
I like what you guys are saying. I love the idea of Madame X because she's an extremist. I mean, vigilantes have to be a bit extreme, and also if Madame X has been doing this for generations, has been fighting this war, and she's been in these things, she's pretty. She doesn't have much time for someone pussyfooting around the idea of like, maybe will they help or won't they, or if they're too afraid to do something. It's gonna be pretty. She has her mind made up.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I guess her tactics would be pretty much like, look at what the world is. Look what's happening. I'm fairly certain you can help this problem. I don't care if you're going to do it or not. You're going to do it.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Now we obviously may not want to villainize Madame X to the point where she is like of course chaining her up or anything like that or forcing her to be in there like in prison. But it could be a very stern like conversation that they're having, and ultimately Aqua still has to make the decision that she wants to do it, and it seems like she doesn't want to. It's
Mhm.
just not in her.
Yeah.
So and having someone yell at you, having a
Mhm.
stranger yell at you isn't going to change things probably.
Mhm. Well,
It'll have to be someone that she cares about that talks to her. Maybe not a montage, Nate, but maybe like someone that she does know that she cares about that talks to her.
well, I'm thinking like what popped into my head while we were talking about that is I was thinking the not like a manipulation type thing where maybe Madam X orchestrates a scenario and releases Aqua into it, and Aqua doesn't necessarily realize, and maybe the audience doesn't even really know. Like the Breaking Bad thing came up with the plant and the little boy.
Oh, that
Um,
poison, yeah.
yeah, the like that comes to mind. Like that, like it would be interesting, to have Madam X, manipulate a situation, release Aqua into it, and then you find out later, and maybe Aqua finds out later too, or maybe she doesn't. I don't know. That Madam X manipulated her into doing this by creating that scenario. Um, I don't know. Just that's just another way to look at it.
I like that too.
I
I
like
like that
that
too.
a lot, but it is very similar to one of our previous scenarios.
I thought of that too. The only the only defense I have of that is that in that one, that's almost like a that's a manipulation to be like, yeah, no, you're not hot shit. This is more of a uh
Yeah, that was, yeah.
setting chess pieces.
That's true. That's true.
You know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That I love that we had, of course, from the with Al was being manipulated by the master there.
Mhm.
This situation, there is one way we could go with. There's one way we could go about it too. Completely different route is that as she leaves, after she leaves the X cave, Aqua's picked up by a limo, picked up essentially by someone from the company, and they more or less try to convince her that she didn't see anything, or they try to coerce her into being cooperative with them. And it could be that just talking to higher ups from the hydropower, the company that's kind of corrupt, essentially, just talking to them about these things,
Hmm.
um, they don't necessarily confess to it, but Aqua's smart enough to realize that they wouldn't go through all this trouble if they were squeaky clean, and it may be enough that it kind of starts pushing the ball.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I like
Yeah,
that idea.
I like that a lot because they would want to keep her on their side. Like there wouldn't be they wouldn't fire her. There would be no severance pay because then she would feel that she was free to do stuff. So they definitely do all that they could to keep her,
Yeah,
um, which I'm not really sure what that would be, but it would probably be um, something too good to be true, or just exposes the corruption and badness.
yes,
Maybe it could be a situation where the corporation realizes at the same time Madam X realizes that, oh, she. So they recognize the power in her as well, and they recognize
that's what
she,
just hit me too. Yep,
yeah, like that,
yep,
like she could take us down, or she could make us even more powerful. So then it
Right.
becomes a power struggle between Madam X and the corporation.
yes.
Yeah.
And it could be also something that the reason they approach her is when she was making her escape, they have footage of her manipulating the water to keep herself safe, and they have footage, and the gunslinger may have survived, of course, and he tells them how he managed to make all the water basically douse him out and everything. So they're aware of the fact that she can manipulate water on a
Mhm.
very powerful level. And so they basically try to entice her the opposite direction. They try to say, "Hey, with your abilities, we have lots of use for someone like you at the corporation.
Mhm.
We can have you rise very high." They're trying to, like a true, serpent. They're trying to charm her with the evil, as opposed to trying to just like seem that duplicitous, seem that horrible at first first sight.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
they're trying to basically say, "Hey, come on, we love you. We're great. You're a great employee. Use your abilities to do this type of things." And as they're talking to her more and more, she's asking a few questions about, like, what did I see exactly, or I heard some rumors that this and this is happening, and they're being a little coy with her. They're saying, well, some things, of course, in order to make an omelet, you got to make a few eggs, all that kind of regular, all that basic stuff. And as she's hearing these things, it's becoming, the wheels are turning in her head more and more, so that she definitely is trying to be used. They're trying to use her, and they are in fact dirty.
Mhm.
And so, yeah,
Uh, what I was gonna say is, I think it would be interesting to have it where she realizes that, oh, what Madam X said is true. This is not good, but she leans into their offer,
mm-hmm.
and she essentially is, because she realizes at first she thinks, okay, my choice is I take this offer and you know, I get into this, and yeah, it sucks, but I just have to deal with it, or I die and everybody in my family dies. But then she finds an out in that Madam X she's able to figure out a way how to get in touch with Madam X, and she essentially becomes an inside man.
Yeah, I like
Yes.
that.
Yes. Perfect. Perfect.
And then it's a, you know, it's a situation where, you know, and I think it would be an interesting piece to have it be where she's an inside character, and she's working, you know, she's trying to work to make it through, and Madam X is training her, you know, on the down low and all of that. And then have it be where where Madam X fully recognizes the level of her power, but the corporation doesn't. So the corporation thinks they have control over her. They think like, oh, we just need to do this thing, and then they may. But in reality, she has her power. She's very powerful, and that's the big thing at the end is where she pretty much, you know, makes water go boom, and corporation goes down.
The technical term.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah. The professional collegiate way to put it.
Exactly.
Yes. I like that a lot. I think so. That's kind of it. That's what convinces her. I like the idea of her being a spy or a double agent for Madam X, and like because Madam X is Trish works at the lab for the company. We could have it that Aqua and her see each other, and they just look at each other. They don't really make it too obvious that they know one another, because at this point the company doesn't know that Trish is Madam X either.
Yeah.
And she's not going to blow her cover. And like you said, so they could have it that you want to have it that Aqua goes back to the X cave later on, and that's when she reveals that she wants to be a double agent, or that she just
Like to get info without informing Madam X, and then go back to her, and like we the audience are like, okay, so clearly she's made her decision, she's a bad guy. She's chosen not to help, but then she goes back to Madam X and is like, yeah, I have this information.
Right. Okay.
I also think the what triggers the climax of this should be the company realizing who Madam X is, and because Aqua has moved up in the ranks, because they don't know that Trish is Madam X, so you know Trish stays in the lower levels. Aqua moves up, or however, because I'm not, you know, I can't remember exactly where we had Madam X in the hierarchy, but Aqua moves up, so Aqua's kind of in the know, and then one day she comes into work and they're like, what's all the hubbub? And it's like, oh, we've discovered that Madam X actually has been working here the whole time. And then she realizes, okay, guess we have to go. I guess go time is now.
Yes, I love the idea of them discovering it, but we had to think more superheroic. What would Stan Lee and Jack Kirby do? So you got to remember, we have an ace in the hole in the gunslinger. So what we could have is basically, as obviously the audience is still believing that possibly Aqua has gone to the dark side and she's working alongside the evil corporation, but she's gathering more information. And as she goes back to the X cave to give all this information to Madam X and tell her what's going on, how she's done more research, and she has some things that can actually help her. She wants to work with her. We could actually have that the gunslinger has followed her. The gunslinger sees her leaving and is pretty much keeping tails on her. And so that would we could have our kicking it too. That the two of them, is revealed that the two of them are going to work together again on this project, but that the gunslinger sees where they actually are. And we can have it that the gunslinger decides to go back to the lab. Back to the company. Tells them that he's found the location of this vigilante that's been given a hard time, and he goes back to the X cave with a whole bunch of reinforcements and everything to try and take her down and destroy the whole lab, destroy the whole X cave and things too. Which could be a whole big fight scene there.
Well, I kind of like the idea of the audience not knowing that Aqua and Madam X are in cahoots. I like the idea of there being a probably not an insignificant amount of time where we just think Aqua is caught up in a web and she's stuck and she doesn't know what to do. And then and then there's during the climax, it's revealed, boom, like that way we also kind of avoid the training montage and we avoid all that. It's like we can figure out ways to show the audience that yes, she has been trained. We could even make it kind of a thing where the corporation is training her because they want to control her power too.
That's a different spin. It's a different spin. Having the company training. I'm just thinking about trying to find ways also to have, because at this point we really only had like one. We've had, I guess, 2 action sequences, and it's for a superhero movie to make sure we have some action in there too. So if we can't save everything just for the climax, it's got to be some little another moment in there or two. I'm cool with the idea of audience not knowing that Aqua is in fact working with MX still in the down low, and it's kind of revealed at the very end. But it's got to find some way to have them be a confrontation.
Well, maybe there's maybe we still do the thing of the gunslinger following Madam X kind of thing, and then the gunslinger finds out Madam X is Trish. Like he.
Oh, so yeah, we can just have the gunslinger. Yeah, the gunslinger follows Trish home.
Yeah,
basically. Yeah, follows Trish to the X-Cade by herself. Okay.
And then have there be a battle there, and then we can also like find out, like we can like throw in random battles, like everybody's a mutant in this world, so just...
Yeah, I mean, like some brief sort of skirmishes. There doesn't have to be. We don't need to get like bogged down in fight or combat like mechanics or anything.
No.
Like just some skirmishes that go on. But I mean, we don't have like, even though this is a superhero genre, we don't have to have a fight every 5 seconds.
No, not every 5 seconds. But I just want it to be one where we have basically that one action sequence through the lab, or through the company, and then the fight in the house, and then there's no action at all until the very, very end. It'd be a little lackluster for a superhero genre movie. You wouldn't have as much action as you can have in there. We want it to be impactful and meaningful, yes, but have some pacing. It's all about the pacing.
Well, we could have be like, Aqua goes to the bank and gets into an argument with the teller, and then it turns into a block gets leveled,
Do me a favor, please don't put that in any of your stories about going to the bank and there's a fight. All right.
But yet, I'm sure I could point to many movies where someone goes to the bank and there's a fight because it's getting robbed.
The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Well, yes, but that was also those are pertinent to the story. Like Aqua, remember, isn't the hero in this story. It's I guess if you want to just have like filler of Madam X fighting random hoods and things, we could do that. I'd rather not, but we could. But anyway, we're getting in the modern.
Related to plot.
Yeah. I'd rather keep it related to plot. That's great. Okay. Yeah. Company offers it. So we're saying that. So the reveal, I guess, as we're getting into Act 3. So Act 2 more or less ends with her, where it seems where we pretty much we see Trish or Madam X in the science lab looking on as she watches Aqua go, essentially join the dark side and go to the higher ups in the company, and we see her, like you said, where the company themselves are kind of training her how to use her ability that much more, and they're kind of wielding her power to do more with their own product with H2FO, with her kind of being able to produce it in different ways than they had planned before, and making it that much better and everything else. But at the same time, it's still just as harmful as it was before. But Trish, at the same time, it seems like we're watching that Aqua is getting more and more into it. She's learning how to use her powers and abilities in different ways, but it seems like she's embracing it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then we can have Act 2 basically end there with it seemingly like that Aqua is going to the dark side, embracing the dark side.
Yeah, and I even like the idea, or I thought of an idea that I like because I thought of it. Is where at the beginning of the story, Aqua is the young, new person at the company, and Madam X is kind of like the kind of like, oh yeah, let me show you how it is here, welcome to this place. And then at the end of Act 2, because she has, had to, go with the corporation on this stuff, she has gained in power. So I could even see like at the lab, there's a Aqua and Trish have like a little spat, and Aqua's like, like, well, I'm gonna, I don't know, write you up or something. I don't know. Like, it's obviously something a little bit more impactful than that. And they have a little spat, and so that kind of like solidifies it in the audience's mind that, like, oh yeah, no, they're on the outs. Aqua is now the antagonist. Like, this is,
Yes.
and then the gunslinger, and then you're like, oh no, Trish is gonna die, and then
Yes.
boom, reveal in Act 3.
And another thing too that occurred to me afterwards is kind of like a little bit of hindsight. Is so we realized that all the times where it seemed like Trish and Aqua were fighting at the company in the labs and everything, is actually them. They're actually talking to each other about what's going on. They're putting on a show. So anyone that's watching them, things wouldn't suspect anything, but Trish is actually, the Aqua's actually giving her information about these things, and vice versa on some level too.
Oh, I like that.
So they never did have a real falling out. Basically, it's revealed at the end, so to speak. That was they stayed in touch with each other about this time.
Yeah.
But Dad, did you just say something? So I guess.
Yes, I did just say so.
No. I thought you just said something about the gunslinger. So was it that you wanted to have the gunslinger? Because obviously he's still alive and still doing stuff. Do you want to have him? How do you want to have it that he? Do we want to go with the idea? I'm sorry.
Right.
What did you say, Ari?
He should be the final boss.
Yeah.
Yes, he will be the final boss.
I like the idea. Now I know we talked about having him be like this kind of doofy, like everybody's like, that's just Norman, over there doing his thing.
Norman.
And
I love it.
and then, but like he's actually like super deadly. And I like the idea of like maybe having him be this like ever present background, almost like the shark in Jaws. Like there's the beginning fight or the thing that kind of kicks it off, and he's there, and it's like, oh god, this guy is no joke. But he's like, hi guys. And then, but having it be like he's still kind of hovering in the background, and he's poking in here and there, and everybody's like, oh yeah, that's right, like this super deadly dork is hiding somewhere. It doesn't have to be a dork. I know that we just talked about it like that last week, but and then having it be that like like him following Trish home is like oh no, the shark's gonna get her kind of thing.
Yes, I think we can combine our efforts as far as the John C. Reilly goofiness of it, because he's more of a. We had the idea that Aqua's meant to be all about control and being very well composed, essentially, and that her antagonist, the gunslinger, is meant to be a wild card, kind of over the top, loose cannon, literally. So it could be that after he loses this big battle to Madam X and has a house dropped on top of him, he's even more enraged, and so he's kind of out there like a wrecking ball looking for Madam X. Can't find her. He has no idea who she is. That could be part of what it is. He's actually going out there. Basically, anyone that he thinks could be her, not necessarily a scientist, anyone he thinks they could be her, he's pretty much starting fires and doing this kind of stuff, trying to draw her out. And so that could be kind of maybe have some little action sequences there, like you said, the bank or whatnot. He does this kind of stuff, and from time to time, she does show up, and she does kind of stop him, or she fights him or whatnot. And then finally, like you said, he stumbles upon, or something happens where he recognizes something about Trish. He walks through the company one time to talk with the higher ups, and he sees Trish in the lab, and something about her seems familiar enough. He doesn't know what it is, but something about her seems familiar. Maybe he sees her shoe, and her shoe looks the same way that they would kick him in the face or whatnot. And it gives him enough cause that he wants to it could be similar to, I know you guys all both seen Spider-Man Homecoming, that scene where the Vulture is talking to Peter as he's driving him and her daughter to the dance, and they have a conversation. In that conversation, it's kind of revealed that, oh wait a minute, there's too many coincidences here. I know who you are, and they both realize they know who each other are. So it could be that the gunslinger goes into her lab and they have a conversation, and more or less it's kind of revealed then that they know who each other are, basically. And then so later on that night when Trish is leaving, or she's trying to get out there as fast as possible, the gunslinger follows her home, more or less that way. Something like that.
So come with me on this journey. So I don't know if you guys remember the old TV show Commish.
Of course, Michael Chiklis.
Yeah, it's with Michael Chiklis. It's essentially he's a commissioner of a suburb of a suburb of New York City, and it was one of those, like, it was silly. It was kind of like NYPD Blue, but like silly, like just kind of like that. Like it had more comedy to it. It wasn't like Scrubs, but
lighthearted, yeah.
yeah, it was very lighthearted. Would be a good way to put it. And it was good. I liked it. But there was, in a later season, there was a multi-episode arc where Tony was the name of the Michael Chiklis' character. He pissed off somebody, I don't know who, and they hired a hitman. Well, the hitman they hired was this like elderly man, and you don't even find out he's a hitman until like it was like a 3-episode arc, and you don't even find out that he's the hitman until the end of the second episode. Because like just randomly through the 3 episodes, they would cut to this guy, and he was traveling to this area where Tony lived, and you had really no idea why we were seeing this random old guy, and you're like, why is he there? And then you find out he's the hitman. But the thing is that he was such a sweet grandfatherly like character. But everything he did with a purpose. And he was that grandfatherly character was just that. It was a character because it knew it got him into places where he wouldn't otherwise have access to. And that stuck with me. I saw that when I was like 10. And that idea of this sweet old man being a cold-hearted killer like haunted me. And so I thought of this when we were talking about the gunslinger being this doofy character. I like the idea of him being doofy, but him being that way as kind of like oh, that makes me look like not a threat.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yes. So even giving him an alternate persona too. Like, yeah, just like as Madam X has Trish, the gunslinger has the alternate persona too.
Yeah.
Alter ego.
Yeah.
And it could be that I love that idea that we've seen, the audience has seen this alter ego in the lab company, in the labs several times. But we haven't seen that person transform into the gunslinger. So we have no idea. We have no reason to suspect that he is anything besides just a regular lowly scientist or whatnot, or company man, yes man, what have you. So yes, I like that idea. And are you saying that it could be a situation where we've seen him having a conversation with Trish multiple times, and then basically the two of them have a conversation where the two of them both realize that they're more than meets the eye, as well as the audience?
I think it's more like something tips him off, and
just him.
Just him. And so
like he realizes it.
He becomes like he's a hunter. And
the audience finally gets to see that he's not a bumbling fool.
Yeah.
Right. Yes, I like that too. I like the idea that he realizes who she is, but she doesn't realize who he is.
Yeah.
I like that idea a lot because it's kind of it's a bit of a turn on the trope that's been established before. Another thing. So yeah, okay.
It kind of like I know this. I just keep pulling in pop culture that I've seen. But this actually kind of reminds me of the Into the Spider-Verse with the uncle.
Good,
because I think and we talked about this on an episode of the old style of CIP, where I didn't know, because I didn't know the story of Miles Morales because I'd gotten out of comics, out of collecting them on a regular basis right before they created Miles Morales. So I didn't know the story of his uncle being that character and all of that. So that hit me by surprise, and I actually really liked that. And I was glad that I didn't know that story because at the end of the Spider-Verse, the way that story was told, it was impactful to me. And so for some reason that just reminds me of just having that, where you have this character that you think is one thing, and then it turns into this. Oh no, this is a stone cold killer.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. No, I agree with that. So one of the things to consider too is that one thing that can really tip off the gunslinger is that there could be a conversation between Aqua and Madam X that happens. And obviously, the gunslinger, if he's in the labs or if he works at a company and continues to see Aqua, basically because she's become part of the company, she's off limits. But after a while, I guess he notices the two of them having conversations, Aqua and Madame X or Aqua and Trish having conversations so much, it starts to kind of tip off that maybe there's more to their relationship than it seems as well.
Yeah, like, why are you guys arguing so much?
Yeah, something's up here,
Well,
and so that kind of puts her on the radar. And then they like you said, they have when the two of them alone are having a conversation, and he does put two and two together and realize there's more to her than it seems.
well, I like the idea. I'm so this is the way it's playing out in my mind, and I don't know if you guys like this or not, but it's playing out in my mind that he's suspicious of Trish, and he's chasing after her. And because I like the idea of the reveal that Aqua and Trish are actually, you know, actually working together to be during the final fight, where you think they bring Trish in, they bring Madam X in, that Aqua's there, and they're like, all right, evaporate all, like evaporator or whatever, and
Right.
and then Aqua does something else, and that's the reveal, and you're like, oh shit. So I think because if we make the gunslinger suspicious of Aqua as well, that would tip the hand a little early.
Oh no, yeah, I agree. In the way he can't really be suspicious of her because she now works for the company.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, like, she made her choice, and he's sort of like checked her out, like vetted her, and made sure that she was on their side, and like she checked out.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
Uh-huh.
So you want to have it where he suspects that Trish is in fact the Madam X, doesn't necessarily know it, but suspects that she is, and then you say she's gonna he would bring Trish up in front of the whole high council at the company, saying that I think she is Madam X, she's evil, and he pretty much tries to tell Aqua to use her powers to destroy her or something, or confess that it is her in fact. Then go that route.
Well, I think. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have an answer for that.
Okay. No.
What if he sort of sets a trap for Madam X, so it's not as obvious as like getting her to the company.
Yeah.
But he does it in such a way where he exposes her identity. And that's all we have there.
No, that's I think that's what we need to go with, that route. It needs to be a trap that he sets, a trap that would lure her out, basically, in a way where she either reveals
a trap involving Aqua.
Ah, I like that.
So he is still suspicious of Aqua then, if he's going to kind of use her as bait.
He's using her as bait because he knows if his suspicions are correct about Madam X, he knows that Madam X wants her.
I see. Okay.
Or
yes.
Or with Aqua.
Ooh.
Yes. There we go. The two of them seemingly team up.
Yeah. And
okay.
And the and have it be where he's still kind of the like, hey, Aqua, I have a suspicion, in being like nerdy and doofy and whatever, and then that's in that trap thing, when they're setting it up and when it's going, like you're seeing the flashes of the murderer, under the nerd, and then when the trap's supposed to go off, Aqua's like, kidding, and then
right, it's a reversal.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I like that idea a lot. Yes. So I guess the way we revealed to the audience that Madam X is set up for a trap, it could be something where it's seemingly just like a distress call or something of that nature. Madam X, playing the hero, goes there to try and solve it or help it. And it turns out both water and fire are there. Both Aqua and the gunslinger are there, ready to ambush her, more or less. And the gunslinger is ready to, and we actually see it actually is a fight. Madam X is fighting the gunslinger as best she can. Every now and then, Aqua will do something kind of trip her up or hinder in some way during the fight. She's not really an action hero, but she's able to do enough to kind of make her job that much harder. And as it seems that the gunslinger has Madam X dead to rights, and as a gunslinger, she's getting ready to leave the final blow, the crushing blow on her. That's when Aqua does something, uses her powers in a very uber way that she had done before to defeat the gunslinger for herself.
Yeah.
And then before the gunslinger is able to, I guess, either dies or what have you, that's when Aqua says like, "Fooled you" or whatever.
Yeah.
Or Pop goes to Winkle back to him or something like that. Something like that along those lines, as far
Yeah.
as revealing that they were inside. Cool deal.
And I like the idea of keeping the corporation this nameless entity, not giving them, like, having the gunslinger be just like a like the only connection you really have of the higher, like, it's like this shadow thing where, like, she's being approached by, like, just managers and directors and whatever, but we never see who the nameless heads of the corporation are until the sequel.
Sure. Yes. Yeah. The gunslinger is kind of the face of the company. We can see it. It's kind of like Dr. Claw
like
from
almost, where he's just like, all right, well, I have a job to do, and so I got to do it. Sorry.
Right. That's fine. That's perfect. Yeah, I like that idea. Yeah, it's like in what's it called? Inspector Gadget. You guys ever seen Inspector Gadget with Dr. Claw? You never see his face.
5 million years ago.
Well, back in the year of 2 BC, in Inspector Gadget, they never showed Dr. Claw's face. You always see his hands, you can see his cat, and hear his voice.
I'll get you next time, Gadget. That's about as good as I can get.
No, I mean that's not. I've heard worse.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Wow, ringing endorsement from Ethan Murphy.
That voice is like remarkably hard to do or maintain. Like,
no, it'll destroy your voice.
Most folks can do it for like just that line. I'll get you next time, Gadget. But once you try to do anything more than that, and it's just like your vocal cords go, "Fuck you."
I wonder if that was the original ASMR. Was Dr. Claw talking to kids?
No.
Incorrect.
Oh, yeah, all right. So as I'm locking all this in,
Yes.
the gunslinger strongly suspects that Trish and Madam X are one and the same. He gets Aqua to join him to pretty much lay a trap for Madam X, as Madam X is trying to do thwart some other crime or do some other good doing what have you. Madam X and Aqua and the gunslinger are there to ambush her. Fight ensues. Gunslinger almost has Madam X did the rights. Then Aqua reveals that she's actually on the Madam X's side still, and basically defeats Gunslinger. Now that the two of them, it's revealed that Madam X and Aqua are on the same sides again, or are still on the same side. Do we want to have them actually take down the company, or is that more or less not their fight in this? Or could it be something as far as what would all their sharing of notes and going back and forth, what was it all adding up to? Not just this fight with the gunslinger, but there'd be some other thing, some other objective they may have had as far as trying to do something to the company.
The problem is that the having it be where they fight the gunslinger and then they have to go after the corporation, like that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, that's this is a very part.
Yes.
This necessitates a sequel.
But yes, actually, what if we did the other way? What if, like you guys said, the big climax was their fight with the gunslinger? And what if this ends more or less with the findings that both Aqua and Madam X had? If they pretty much, they're like, here we have our notes, and they pretty much are willing to
publish their findings.
Yes, something like that. That's literally that's it. Like now we have all this stuff. Let's publish it, put it in the paper more or less. And this particular movie could end with the paper saying the company is doing X, Y, and Z, and seeing the faceless Dr. Claw slam his fist down, saying, "Next time, X, next time," as he strokes his cat and gives it all ASMR.
And that is how none of that works.
But that could be it, though, as far as keeping that big climactic battle between the gunslinger and Aqua and Madam X, and then the actual way this is resolved is kind of similar to All the President's Men, where they're either publishing up their findings or they reveal their findings in the newspaper. Kind of how they work to take down the company, basically, not from the inside out.
Or it's like The Watchmen, where Rorschach's journal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. All the references in the world. More references, please.
Yes, all the references. Well, like we're okay. So we did superhero. Like this was superhero movie, and all three of us really like superhero movies. So and like stories and ideas and things. So obviously this is like reference heaven right here.
Yes. Yeah. Of course. That's what it's supposed to be. That's what it's supposed to be.
Speaking of which, I'm going to throw this out there just because while Ethan is locking stuff in, and today is May the 4th, and they announced it. Did you see that the next Star Wars movie is being directed by the Taika Waititi?
No. Oh my god, I'm so happy.
Yes.
I have no idea what the film is or when it's going to come out or anything like that, but I am happy to see him doing his thing. And as I was talking to Ari before you jumped on the line, I'd watched the Star Wars Clone Wars in the last 4 episodes. Last one, which aired today, it's pretty much like 1 2 hour movie starring Suka, big fan favorite character in the extended universe, and that 2 hour movie basically made up for all the other disappointments I may have had with Star Wars over the past couple movies or whatnot. So
I think you said the same thing about The Mandalorian.
The Mandalorian did too, but this is actually even better than Mandalorian. Yeah, this is actually. I feel like that's the thing. Going the TV route has been more satisfying than the film route recently. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, today was. I liked how they handled today because, like, it, they basically were like, we're just going to release a lot of Star Wars news that's going to make everybody happy. So.
Yes.
I appreciate that because in these trying times, all I want is to be happy.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Oh, hey, I about chat a brick because they announced that the Vader, the Darth Vader VR game that's on the Oculus, they it was said they had been saying, yeah, no, it's not coming to PlayStation VR, it's not coming. Well, they announced today that it's coming in summer and to PlayStation VR, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. So I have to tell Mick because he's.
I like how you already know that. I'm sure he knows that has already bought 3 or 4 copies.
Already, he got in his time machine and went
yes. Okay. All right. And pretty much all this stuff I'm typing up doesn't even need to be typed in anyways, but just final measure.
Yes, and for the eagle-eyed viewers, you probably noticed that the layout is different because I realized that my the orientation of the frame for Ari's drawing was wrong, and it was causing me great consternation every week when I would be trying to fit the thing in because I'd be like, I want to get all of it in, damn it. So over the past week, I tweaked the layout so it is much more better oriented, unlike that sentence that I just said.
No.
Orientated. Oh man, so many jokes just flew through my head and I let them all go.
I'm really proud of you.
I am not. I'm really disappointed. All right, and I'm all done. On that note, on Ari's disappointment, as usual, I am done.
That was not disappointment. That was genuine pride.
All right, folks. Well, to quote Nate, I'm ready to wrap this puppy up. Just a bit here. So, I just call this Act 2 and Act 3. I'm not sure where it actually plays or stops. Mm-hmm. But so we pick up after Madam X and Aqua are in the X cave. Madam X wants to teach Aqua how to fully use her abilities to try and fix the world and save the water, so to speak. Aqua doesn't want to be a hero or use her powers to cause change. That's not her. That's not who she is, and she's not into all this danger, so to speak. And Aqua, after a massive fight with Madam X, storms out of the cave and leaves. As Aqua is walking on the streets, not sure what to do, he's suddenly approached by a bizarre limo, and there are a whole bunch of faceless, film noirish guys in suits in there, and they make her an offer she can't refuse. And Aqua is basically turned to the dark side as she decides to join up with the company. She quickly ascends the ladder of the company and becomes a higher up person there. She starts using her abilities, or starts learning how to use her abilities that much more to produce that much more water and do more things. And as Aqua tends to see Trish around in the lab, she berates her pretty hard, seemingly like being more and more villainous towards her, and seeming more like an actual villain all around. While this is happening, we see our buddy the gunslinger is still pretty upset that he lost so badly to Madam X, and he's kind of causing a ruckus in an attempt to find her, and becomes kind of obsessed with finding her and beating her. And as it turns out, the gunslinger actually works in the same lab as Trish, and the audience doesn't yet know this, but he's posing as an idiot because he is in fact pretty smart. He's just a character, right, that he plays. And he deduces in conversations with Trish in the lab that Trish probably is Madam X. So he works with Aqua to bring a trap on her. And Aqua and the gunslinger set up a trap where Madam X goes there trying to save someone. Turns out that the gunslinger and Aqua are right there. They both attack. A big battle ensues with the three of them. It seems like the gunslinger and Aqua have Trish or Madam X get the rights, and in fact, before the gunslinger can lay the crushing blow or the killing stroke, Aqua jumps in, saves Madam X, defeats the gunslinger, and says his catchphrase back at him as far as like pop goes the wheels or whatever it might be, and then to deliver the final crushing blow against the company. Aqua and Madam X end up all the fightings that they've come together, that they've made together as they've been working behind the scenes. They print all those up, put them into a paper, and the last image we see is the higher ups at the company reading in the paper about how their company is, of course, corrupt or is causing all kinds of mutations. One of the higher ups slams his fist down as he strokes his cat and screams "Gadget" next time. And and then the paper self-destructs on top of the chief.
Come on, Penny. Yeah, that's even worse than my Dr. Claw.
That was thoroughly bad. That was your gadget. I thought that was your brain. Okay, that makes sense.
No.
That was your Don Adams. Okay. But that is the conclusion of our superhero story. Working title: Inspector Gadget Goes Wet.
Wait, what? Oh my.
We need rest. We need sleep.
Yes, very much so.
All right. Well, now it's my favorite time of the year. We're gonna get to check out what Ari has drawn. Here. Oh my Christ! That's a lot. This is a lot better than me talking. I'm full screen. That's amazing. So that's Aqua, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, beautiful.
Yeah, I love the blue highlights. You know, it's great.
Yes, well, her name's Aqua. Clearly this is a superhero.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Thing. I have to I'll throw a little bit of Rogue in there, but blue.
I love it. I love the glasses too. There aren't enough superheroes that fight in glasses. So.
Well, she's a nerd, so obviously, clearly, according to the rules that I have
that you have just made up.
Artistic life, nerds must wear glasses.
Your rules are gospel. They are gospel to you and no one else.
And I can guarantee one thing, and that is, I know Ethan wants to date both of those women right there. So,
fun fact: I'm pretty sure I've dated versions of those two already. And that's
same though.
And don't be coy, Nate. We don't throw you to date them too. I mean, sure you're married, but you don't want some.
I'm married with children. I'm Al Bundy up in this piece. So
Oof, wow, I would never call you that, but fair enough.
Hey, he while he kind of was a little bit of a dirtbag, he also was actually a good husband and father, despite um, he he walked the walk, he didn't talk the talk. That's what it was.
I see. It was all front. Yeah, he did love his wife, and I don't know how we got into this topic of married with children, but I'm glad we did. Nate, Ari, is there anything you like to say before the quote Nate we wrap this puppy up?
Apparently not.
Apparently Ari fell asleep.
Fourth be with everybody listening, and I hope you know, quarantine hasn't scrambled everyone's brains as much as it has scrambled mine. Yeah,
please. We know it's quarantine. We're now going into about 2 months roughly.
Yeah.
This quarantine stuff. We know it's not pleasant at all. We really genuinely thank you for choosing to spend your time with us. Hopefully, we brought you a little bit of joy for at least a moment or two. If nothing else, just look at the pictures Ari drew. She will be releasing their phone numbers soon. She's going to call them up.
No. Remember.
Yes. It's always 309. Is that Roxanne? No, it's not Roxanne. Anyway, thanks again for all your time and for being with us for a moment here. We enjoy doing this every week, you guys. And if nothing else, you guys make us happy.
Yes. Very much so. Thank you so much, everybody. Really appreciate you joining us. Make sure that you check us out on YouTube. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts. We put the audio up on the feed. And if you're listening to this as a podcast, be sure to go to YouTube, watch us live on Twitch, see the amazing art that Ari draws and illustrates. It's just fantastic. And so thank you all, everyone, and I hope y'all have a wonderful day.